Good morning and very welcome to the regional course on REDD+ measurement, reporting, verification, national forest inventory and monitoring. My name is Peter Holmgren and I work for FAO based in Rome, and I am the Director of Climate, Energy and Tenure. I'm really sorry I couldn't be in Morogoro today. It was in my travel plan, but unfortunately circumstances made it difficult for me to be with you. If I had been in Morogoro, I would have had the pleasure to have the opening statement of the meeting, and this will somehow have to replace that. I want to welcome you to the course on behalf of FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, as well as the UN REDD program, which I will explain to you a little bit in a moment. I also want to thank Sokoine University for hosting the training course. I want to thank Finland for sponsoring it, or co-sponsoring it, and I would like also to mention the Norwegian Forestry Group and thank them for helping to coordinate the training program. And finally, to all you participants, thank you for coming, and I hope you will have an interesting week ahead of you. The UN REDD program is a collaborative partnership between 3 UN agencies: FAO, which we work for, and UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, and UNDP, United Nations Development Programme. We started about 3 years ago to work together on the REDD+ preparations, and we set up the UN REDD program to help countries prepare for the emerging REDD+ mechanism. And as we all know, this has been a subject in the negotiations of the Climate Change Convention for some time, and we are now getting to a stage where the contours and the substance of REDD+ is taking shape. Out of the Cancun agreement and following in the Bonn negotiations last June, we now have a fair understanding of the expectations on the REDD+ mechanism, and that of course includes the forest monitoring as a cornerstone of the efforts that now need to be undertaken by countries. The UN REDD program is designed to support countries in preparing for REDD, and we have divided our strategy into different work areas. The first one, and so far the largest one, has to do with MRV and monitoring, and this is of course what the course is about. We are then also working on governance aspects, stakeholder engagement, the transformation of the economy, looking at multiple benefits of REDD, and many other things. But it's important to recognize that the MRV and monitoring aspects is the first one, and a critical one to make the REDD+ mechanism work at all. The way we work is that we have a number of country programs. One of them is with Tanzania, and I'm sure we will hear a lot more of that today and in the coming days. Country programs, we have 12 at the moment, are designed to work in a specific country to help prepare the institutional and methodological capacities for REDD+. But in addition to the country programs, we also have what we call a global program. The global program contains international activities. For example, the training course that you are attending this week. But also other capacity building efforts, opportunities for dialogue at the international level, and sharing knowledge and experiences between countries. It is important, we think, to have the opportunity to work also at an international level with the REDD+ preparations. And as I said, the development of the training courses in forest monitoring is one important aspect of this. And MRV is needed for several purposes. One of them is to keep track of the forest carbon and the mitigation activities that will be the basis for payments that will be the result of a successful REDD mechanism. So obviously we need to be able to account for the forest carbon. But this is only one aspect of the monitoring needs. Another aspect is that the RED Plus negotiated text also comes with what's called safeguards. Safeguards are both of environmental characteristics and of social and governance characteristics. And the current negotiation text says that countries need to provide information on these safeguards as part of their commitment to the RED Plus mechanism. So obviously, to provide that information, we need to include these aspects into the monitoring system as well. And finally, we must also recognize that the RED Plus effort doesn't exist in isolation from other policies and other aspirations. And therefore, when we design monitoring systems, they need to fit in with the requirements and the needs of other development objectives, be it food security, biodiversity conservation, livelihood improvement, or other development objectives. We don't see from FAO's side that one should develop monitoring systems that exist in isolation for RED Plus. We think it is a good idea to develop integrated ways of monitoring forests and also the broader natural resources. And I think the example that I'm sure you will hear a lot more about from Tanzania is an excellent one that illustrates this point in a very good way. Beyond the actual technical design of the monitoring systems, there is of course the need to look at institutions and maybe also the legal framework for the monitoring and reporting efforts. I really hope that you get an opportunity to discuss these aspects as well during the course. I want finally to go even deeper into what we would characterize as the information requirements for RED Plus. I do this partly because my background is in forestry, and I've worked for a number of years in FAO with forest monitoring aspects, and therefore I have a little bit of a particular interest in the topic, and that's also why I really had liked to be in Morogoro today. But we have worked in the UN RED program to look into the information needs for a successful RED mechanism, and we want to do this in a way that makes it possible to build on existing experiences of forest monitoring and not to construct new paradigms because of RED Plus. And I already touched on one dimension here, which I would call the information categories. One of the information categories that we need to cover is the carbon and the mitigation activities. Another information category that we need to cover has to do with all the other environmental products and services from the forest, because ultimately we need to relate those to the benefits we can have from storing more carbon in the forests. And further, we need to have information about the socioeconomic factors in connection to the forests. What are the dependencies of people, of forest products and services? What are the land tenure situations and the resource tenure situations? And then finally, we need also to include information about governance, the legal framework and how it is applied, and to what extent stakeholders are engaged in the decisions about resources. This is one dimension, the information categories. I repeat them again: carbon, environmental products and services, socioeconomic parameters, and governance. But this is only one dimension. The other dimension I would like to mention is that there is a distinction between the type of information we need for strategic purposes, for example, at the national level, for example, for reporting to the Climate Change Convention, or to provide information to the policy dialogue at the national level. We call this strategic information. This type of information is different from what we call operational information. That is, when we locally want to implement a policy, for example, a RED Plus policy, we will need a different type of information. Typically, it will be less sophisticated because we don't have, it will be too expensive to collect very detailed information at the local level. But at the same time, we need to have full cover information because we want to be able to implement the policies everywhere. So there is a difference between strategic information, which is sophisticated, typically collected in on a sample basis, and operational level information, which is collected for implementation purposes and typically has full cover. The reason why I make a point of the distinction between strategic and operational levels is that the information requirements are so different, and the data collection as well as analysis will be very different for these two levels. And sometimes they are mixed up in the discussions about how to implement RED+. And I know that you will be discussing this during the course, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to reinforce that it is very important to have a good overview of the information requirements before designing any monitoring system for RED+. And this is basically what this course is about. We are very happy to organize it in Morogoro, in Tanzania, with participants from the region, from several countries in the region, and we will like to have your feedback from the course so that we can improve it and implement it also in other regions where RED+ is hopefully going to be a reality in the near future. By that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to not be with you, but to address you in this way instead. And I wish you a very interesting week and hope to meet you soon at some other occasion. Thank you very much.